Okay, so if you were in high school or when you were in high school, did you ever have that crosstown rival or that city from across the river, that high school from that other town that you absolutely despised? If you've ever experienced that, you will love this episode. Stay tuned as myself, Mr. E, on Mysteries Mysteries will explore this topic. We're going to explore right now something called in-group or out-group or in-group bias today. These definitions are complicated. I would recommend you write them down. In-group is the group that you're in. Out-group is the other group. You got that? I know. It is tough. It is tough. But there are a lot of different in-groups. So if you look at, let's just take high school. If you're in high school, ever were in high school, your in-group is your high school. The out-group is the other high school. Or your in-group is you're in theater. And the out-group is maybe the people that are in sports. Whatever the case may be, there's an in-group, there's an out-group. And sometimes we're in multiple in-groups, and sometimes there are multiple out-groups, all that sort of stuff. So if you take me, for instance, my in-group would be sports. My in-group in college would be my major, pre-med. My in-group would be a basketball player, my, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a lot of in-groups that we can be a part of, right? But for every in-group, there's obviously going to be that out-group. And the out-group is oftentimes a group that you have a little bit of conflict with. And you always lean towards, belief in your own group. And that's called in-group bias. So if we were to take the high school situation and you were a part of one group, you would believe that your one group is better than the other group. So you would say something like, we're the kind ones, we're the accepting ones, and that other group is the unaccepting ones, the unkind ones. But what we have experienced is with that in-group bias, because the in-group that you're in has that bias, the out-group that you're not in, well, they have that bias too towards you. And what we experience is something called the mirror image effect. Okay, so they view you the same way as you view them. Okay, so if you take this from a political stance, all right, we'll take the United States and Iraq. Okay, people from the U.S. view the government of Iraq or the people of Iraq, who knows, as the out group, and we view them as perhaps, I'm not saying I do, but perhaps we view them as being bad, evil, that sort of thing. What we forget is that government or that agency or that group views the United States the same exact way. And that mirror image effect takes place. Okay. So if you look at the conflict right now between Palestine and Israel, you have the same thing going on. Okay, so the people from Palestine, the Palestinian people, would view the Israeli people as being evil. The Israeli people would be viewing the Palestinian people as being evil. And what you have developing there is something called mirror image effect. And it's also in-group bias, where we have this bias towards another group. That is tough enough to overcome. But this is where it gets incredibly, incredibly daunting to deal with. When you are in your in-group, you view yourself and others around you as being very unique individuals that you're not nearly the same as everybody in your in-group. So let's say we're taking the Americans and the Iraqi people, okay? Americans will view all themselves as being unique individuals, not similar to their government leaders, like being very different and unique. And you recognize all of those qualities within your in-group as you have a lot of differences. But when you view the out-group is all the same. The out-group, if they're bad, everybody's bad. Okay. If they are unkind, everybody is unkind. And you hear this in politics all the time. And it is horrific. It's really difficult for me to listen to the news because I hear these things all the time where if you have a slant on a negative slant on the Palestinian people, you are calling them all terrorists because of Hamas. And if you are a Palestinian who is anti-Israel, what the Israeli government and some of the Israeli military is doing to Palestine, to the Palestinian people, is all evil. So you clump all of them together. And so what we do is we miss recognizing the similarities that we have in one another, even though we're belonging to different groups. So this is a question that I ask my students relating to in-group, out-group, and in-group bias. This is a question I ask. Okay, so for those of you that haven't figured it out yet, I'm a teacher. I'm a high school teacher. I'm married, and I have a young son, a 6-year-old son. Okay, and I am an American. Okay, I'm an American citizen born in the United States. And I ask my students, who am I more similar to? Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Or am I more similar to an Iraqi teacher with a wife and a son? This is a difficult question for them to answer because of in-group bias, because I am simply an American. I have virtually nothing in common with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I can't think of maybe 2 or 3 things. Being a parent and being a husband, that's about where it starts. That's about where it stops. But if you look at an Iraqi high school teacher that is married and has a child, I could probably list off 100 similarities to our lives. But it is so difficult for us to recognize those similarities when we're looking at somebody from an out group. So that's a serious piece. Now, here is a fun piece. So when you're in high school and you have that evil empire from the other high school across the city, whatever, and they're your rivals and you have nothing in common and you don't talk to them and you get in fights on the field or on the court or whatever, and you view them, I have nothing in common with that person, they are awful, blah 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 blah, right? And it is just pure evil. And then you graduate from high school and you're at the same parties, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, this dude's pretty cool, right? This guy's all right. Okay, I always thought you were a jerk, right? You're a pretty decent guy. And now I look back on that and I just thought he was a jerk because he was in the out group, because he was from a different school. And I probably had more in common with him 10 times over than I did with many people from my same school. So it's a really interesting philosophy. So go ahead and look up some more information on in-group, out-group, and in-group bias, and think about it in your world. Think about it in your walk of life, and let me know what you come up with. Again, I am Mr. E. This is MysterE's Mysteries. Make sure you follow us on Spotify or Apple to our podcast. Just check us out on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc. A big thank you to Bear Wade. If you have any interest in becoming an influencer, starting a YouTube channel, etc., he is the man to talk to. Thank you all. Make sure you follow us. See ya.